Good noon to everyone. Today discussed about in the mass transfer 1. The subject code is a 3340502. Unit number 1 fundamental of mass transfer. અને પ્રીવિયસ લેક્ચરમાં આપણે ક્લાસિફિકેશન ઓફ માસ ટ્રાન્સફર જોઈ ગયા હતા. ફર્સ્ટ ઓફ ઓલ તો ઇન્ટ્રોડક્શન ઓફ માસ ટ્રાન્સફર જોયું હતું, જેમાં 3 ફેઝ આવે. તો સિમ્પલ માસ ટ્રાન્સફર કોને કહેવાય કે જો મોમેન્ટ ફ્લક્સ હોય એમાં કોન્સન્ટ્રેશન ગ્રેડિયન્ટ અને કોન્સન્ટ્રેશન ડિફરન્સના બેઝ પર તો હાયર કોન્સન્ટ્રેશન ટુ લોઅર કોન્સન્ટ્રેશન્સ ઇઝ કોલ્ડ એઝ અ માસ ટ્રાન્સફર. અને ક્લાસિફિકેશન ઓફ માસ ટ્રાન્સફરમાં આપણે જોઈ ગયા હતા કે ડાયરેક્ટ કોન્ટેક્ટ ટુ ઇમિસેબલ ફેઝ, એના 6 ફેઝ જોયા હતા. એનો સેકન્ડ પાર્ટ છે ફેઝ સેપરેટેડ બાય અ મેમ્બ્રેન, તેને આપણે ડિટેલમાં ડિસ્કસ કરીશું. Now, so these operations are used to relatively infrequently, although they are rapidly increasing in importance. The membrane operate in a different ways depending upon the nature of suspension separation to be made in general, however, serve to prevent intermining of the miscible phases. They also prevent ordinary hydrodynamic flow and movement of substance through them is diffusion, and they permit a component separation by selectivity, controlling passages of the component from one side to other side. And gases ગેસમાં જઈશું આપણે ડિટેલમાં. In a gaseous diffusion or diffusionમાં જઈશું કે the membrane is microporous ના બેઝિસ પર છે. If a gas mixture whose component are of a different molecular weight છે, બરાબર. પહેલું મેઇન 3 ફેઝિસ તો આપણે જોઈ ગયા હતા કે ડાયરેક્ટ કોન્ટેક્ટ ટુ ઇમિસેબલ ફેઝ અને સેપરેશન મેથડ એ જોવાના છે આપણે. ફેઝ સેપરેશન બાય અ મેમ્બ્રેન કે ધીસ ઓપરેશન આર યુઝ રિલેટિવલી ઇનફ્રિક્વન્ટલી, although they are rapidly increasing in importance. The membrane operate in a different ways where depending upon the nature of the separations to be made in a general, however, they serve to prevent intermining of two miscible phases. They also prevent ordinary hydrodynamic flow and movement of substances through them is by diffusion, and they permit a component some separation by a selectivity, controlling some passages of the component from one side to the other side. Now they ગેસમાં જોઈશું આપણે કે in a gaseous diffusion or effusions, the membrane is microporous. If a gas mixture whose components are of different molecular weight is brought into the contact with such a diaphragm, the various components of the gas phase through the pores at rate dependent upon the molecular weight. This lead to different composition on a opposite side of the membrane and consequently the separation of the mixtures. In this manner, large scale of separation, some choice, and then this basisમાં જોઈશું તો આપણે this lead to the different compositions on the opposite side of the membrane consequently, and the separation of the form of gaseous uranium hexafluoride is carried out in a permeation. The membrane is not porous and the gas transmitted through the membrane first is dissolved in it and then diffuses through separation in these gases is brought about principally by differences in a solubility of the components. This helium can be separated from natural gases by selective permeations through fluorocarbon polymer membranes. ગેસમાં જઈશું, ગેસ લિક્વિડમાં ડિટેલમાં જઈશું હવે આપણે. gas, liquid. These are the permeation separation where, for some example, for a liquid solution, alcohol and a water is brought into the contact suitable non-porous material and semi-permeable and a membrane બીજી પર જોઈશું આપણે, in which the alcohol previously dissolved after passage through the membrane. The alcohol is vaporized on the far side. Now the liquid, the separation of a crystalline substances from a colloid by contact of their solution with a liquid solvent with an intervening membrane permeable only the solvent and the dissolved crystalline substances is known as dialysis. For example, aqueous beet sugar solution containing undesired colloidal material are freed of the latter by contact with water with an intervening semi-permeable membrane. Sugar and water diffuses through the membrane, but the larger colloidal particles cannot be fractional dialysis. For separating two crystalline substances in a solution, make use of the differences in a membrane permeability. For the substances, if an electromotive force is applied across the membrane to assist in the diffusion of charged particles, the operation is electrodialysis. If a solution is separated from the pure solvent by a membrane which is permeable only to the solvent, the solvent diffuses into the solution and operation known as osmosis. This is not a separation operation, of course, but by the superposing and the pressure to oppose the osmotic pressure, the flow of solvent is reversed and the solvent and solute of a solution can be separated by reverse osmosis. This is one of the processes which may become the important in the desalination of seawater. Now the last one is a direct contact of miscible phases. Because of the difficulty in maintaining concentration gradient without mixing the fluid, and the operation in this category are not generally considered practical industrially except in unusual circumstances. Thermal diffusion involves the some formation of concentration differences within a sludge, single liquid or gaseous phases by impositions of a temperature gradient upon the fluid, thus making a separation of the component of the solution possible. In this way, he is separated from its mixture with the helium and some condensable vapor such as steam is allowed to diffuse through a gas mixtures. It will preferentially carry out of the components along with it, thus making a separation by the operations known as the sweep diffusion. If the two zones within a gas phase where the concentration are different are separated by a screen containing relatively large opening, the operation is called osmosis. If a gas mixture is subjected to a very rapid centrifugation, some component will be separated because of the slightly different forces acting on the various molecules owing to their different masses. The heavier molecules thus tend to accumulate at the periphery of the centrifuge. This method is also used for separation of uranium isotopes. The use of surface phenomena. એ જોઈશું આપણે કે કોઈ સબસ્ટન્સીસના બેઝિસ પર કે માસ ટ્રાન્સફરના બેઝિસ પર આપણે જોવા જઈએ તો ઓપરેશન્સ બેઝ કરીએ છીએ ટુ ઇમિસિબલ ફેઝ જોઈએ આપણે, ડાયરેક્ટ કોન્ટેક્ટ ટુ ઇમિસિબલ ફેઝ. ઓકે, મેમ્બ્રેન સેપરેશન મેથડ ઓપરેશન્સ, સિમ્પલ માસ ટ્રાન્સફર ઓપરેશન્સ તે આપણે જોયું, બરાબર, એ આપણે ડિસ્કસ કરીશું. This one, direct contact to immiscible phase. Simply, this category is by far the most common of the include the bulk of the mass transfer operation. Here we take some advantages of the fact that in a two phases system of several components at equilibrium with a few exceptions, the composition of the phase are different and the various components, in other words, are differently distributed between the phases. In some instance, this separation thus afford lead immediately to a pure substances because one of the phase at equilibrium contains only one constituent. For example, the equilibrium vapor in contact with a liquid aqueous salt solution containing no regardless of the concentration also, and the liquid similarly the equilibrium solid in a contact with such a liquid salt solution is either pure water and a pure salt depending upon which side the aquatic compositions. Okay, તો સિમ્પલ આપણે 6 પોઈન્ટ જોઈ ગયા હતા કે ધીસ સ્ટેજીસ ઓફ એક્રિએશન્સ ગેસ, લિક્વિડ અને સોલિડ permits 6 possibilities of phase contact. Since since with very few exception all gases are completely soluble in each other gases, this category is not particularly realized. Gas liquid is all the component of the system distributed between the phases and equilibrium. The operation is known as the fractional distillation કહીશું આપણે એને, or frequently just distillation part. In this instance, the gas phase is carried out from a liquid by application of heat, or conversely the liquid is created from the gas by removal of heat. For any example, if a liquid solution of acetic acid and water is partially vaporized by heating, it is found that the newly created vapor and the residual liquid both contain acetic acid and water, but in proportions at equilibrium which are different for the two phases and different from those in the original solution. If the vapor and liquid are separated mechanically from each other and the vapor contains two solutions, one richer છે, એક એસિટિક એસિડ ફોર્મમાં છે અને અધર ફોર્મમાં હશે in water, are obtained in this way. Certain degree of separation of the original component has been accomplished by these formations for a gas liquid operation. બોથ ફેઝીસમાં જોવા જઈએ તો આપણે સમ સોલ્યુશન છે એસિટિક એસિડ, વોટર અને બેન્ઝીન જે ટુ ઇમિસિબલ્સ છે જેને કહેવાય આપણે લિક્વિડ લિક્વિડ એક્સટ્રેક્શન. ઓનલી વન કોમન કમ્પોનન્ટ છે જેમાં ગ્રુપ અને કમ્પોનન્ટ સાથે હોય. ઓકે, વિચ ઇઝ ડિસ્ટ્રીબ્યુટ બિટવીન ધ ફેઝીસ લિક્વિડ અને ગેસ. ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ, ઇફ અ મિક્સચર ઓફ અમોનિયા and air is connected to the liquid water. Okay, this is the example. A large portion of the ammonia, but essentially no air, will dissolve in this liquid, and in this way the air ammonia mixture can be separated. Okay, એ અલગ થઈ જશે. This is operation is a gas absorption. Now next part is the humidification and dehumidification. So what is the humidification part? If the liquid phase is a pure liquid containing but one component while the gas containing two or more, એક કરતાં વધારે, Okay, this is operation is a humidification, and humidification is a direction of transfer. This exception mentioned for earlier, for example, contact a dry air with a liquid water, result is a evaporation part of some water into the air. Okay, this is humidification and dehumidification. Thank you so much.